Welcome, Starfinders, to Starfinder Week. My name is Cody. This is Taking20, a channel about all things role-playing games. And today we're continuing our coverage of Starfinder's core races by taking a closer look at the Kasatha, Starfinder's four-armed warrior race. So, I hope you guys are ready. Let's get started. Okay guys, so before we jump in and talk about Kasathas, I want to give a big thank you to my sponsor here for Starfinder Week, Miniature Market. Miniature Market has been my go-to since I discovered them a few years ago, and I highly recommend them to all gamers. Miniature Market carries thousands of games at discounted prices, so whether you're into X-Wing, 40K, Magic the Gathering, Settlers of Catan, Dungeons & Dragons, or if you're looking for a place to snag some minis, Miniature Market has got you covered. And of course, if you guys want to grab some serious discounts on the full Starfinder lineup, be sure to check out the link down in the description below. It'll take you guys right to everything Starfinder, and it'll let Miniature Market know that I sent you over. Once again, thank you, Miniature Market, for making these videos possible. I really appreciate it. Okay guys, so let's take a look at Kasathas. Kasathas originated on a large desert planet called Kasatha. Go figure. The only problem is that the massive planet orbited around a red giant. But deep-rooted tradition with the Kasathas kept them from expanding their civilization and colonizing any additional planets until after the gap, when the Witchwords returned, the Kasathas' ancestor race, and told them of a perfect world to settle, Akaton. At this point, the Kasathas started making plans to leave Kasatha, and they built a massive world ship called the Idari in order to make their way to Akaton. But at this point in history, drift technology hadn't been gifted by Triune yet, so the Idari took a few hundred years to reach Akaton. When they arrived to what was now the Pact Worlds, they found that technology had improved significantly, and the Kasatha government decided that they were too vulnerable to risk invading Akaton. After an emissary mission from the Pact Worlds, supported by the Pact Worlds' entire fleet, met with the Kasathas, the colony ship of Idari eventually settled in orbit between Diaspora and Verces, with most of the Kasathas remaining on board the ship to tend to the drum farms and manufacturing farms. The Kasathas haven't been in the Pact Worlds long, but they've already become valuable trading partners with other races in the Pact Worlds, and many Kasathas have immigrated peacefully throughout the entire solar system. For the Kasathas, culture is as integral to their daily life as the Vesk, but most other races find Kasathan culture to be antiquated and bizarre. Where Vesk society seems to propel them forward into expansion, it's had the opposite effect for the Kasathas. While the Kasathas as a race are much older than most of the Pact World races and were far more technologically advanced when humans were still living in caves, Kasathan technological advancement began to drop off a long time ago after several near-apocalyptic disasters. And this is also mirrored in their society. Kasathan society is for the most part matriarchal and nomadic and is organized into large clans and sub-clans of families. It's also packed full of traditions. Traditions play a significant role in a Kasatha's daily life. When a Kasatha reaches adolescence, they take part in a tradition called the Tempering. This is a year-long walkabout where they are encouraged to engage in normally improper behavior and to test their own limits. This, the Kasatha believe, gives one the perspective to appreciate the value of tradition. After the Tempering, a Kasatha begins to accumulate and acquire their own unique set of traditions, slowly adding more and more over their lifetime. So many, in fact, that the eldest of Kasathas often spend the majority of their day just honoring the past. So if you're thinking about playing a Kasatha, there should be plenty of opportunities for you to have a bit of fun coming up with new quirky traditions for your party to endure. All right, guys, crunch time. The first thing we see is that the Kasatha picks up bonuses to both strength and wisdom, but he takes a -2 penalty to intelligence. And the racial HP bonus comes in at an average 4 hit points. For those of you who want to play a Kasatha, you'll pick up the following racial traits. The first is Desert Stride. This lets you move normally through many natural environments when confronted with difficult terrain. The next is Four-Armed. Kasathas have the ability to hold weapons in all 4 of their arms. Now, this doesn't let them make any additional attacks, but it does let them have more weapons at the ready, which could definitely come in handy. See what I did there? Historian, Kasathas snag a +2 bonus to culture checks, and Natural Grace, which also gives them bonuses to acrobatics and athletics. Now, Kasathan adventurers tend to be very philosophical in their pursuits and lean towards those classes that echo those values. Looking at classes that fit well with the Kasatha, we'll start with the Solarian. Thematically and mechanically, Solarian is probably the class that fits the absolute best with the Kasatha. And the core rulebook even makes note that most Solarians are in fact Kasathas. The +2 to strength will help with those strength-based attacks, and thematically, most Kasathas prefer to wield a melee weapon. That and the Desert Stride ability will also help a Solarian get into melee combat a bit easier, something that they do better than a Vesk. Also, the Kasatha's ability to carry a ranged weapon at the ready for whenever it might be more appropriate to use without any real penalty at all is a nice bonus. And the Solarian's skills align quite nicely with the Kasatha's abilities and Natural Grace racial trait as well. Next to the Solarian, a great second class choice is the Soldier. Though, like the Vesk, Kasatha soldiers will take a hit on skills with their intelligence penalty, they again make good use of Desert Stride for those melee builds. Additionally, like Solarian, Natural Grace will most likely synergize well for your character, and Forearm would also give soldiers the ability to carry both melee and ranged weapons simultaneously, which would obviously help make sure soldier builds are better prepared for any type of combat. Another choice to consider is the Mystic. So Kasatha gets the bump to Wisdom, which only the Shirans and possibly a human get as well, so that alone puts it on the shortlist for race class combos for the spellcaster. But it also synergizes a bit with the Mystic's skills, as the Mystic only has 3 skills that rely exclusively on your intelligence modifier. The Envoy is a class that really isn't going to have a lot of crossover for the Kasatha. Taking a hit to skills isn't something that Envoys are going to be crazy about. Also, while it's absolutely possible to go for a melee build with the Envoy, most Envoys are probably going to be dex builds, so the Kasatha's bump to strength will most likely go to waste. And even though the Historian racial trait gives you a +2 to culture checks, that's also an intelligence-based skill, which, as you know, the Kasatha takes a -2 penalty to. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that if you want to play a Kasatha, you'll probably be better off avoiding the Technomancer and a Mechanic. The trade-offs, again here, just don't synergize well with the Kasatha, as hopefully you won't be having to make too many athletic checks or trying to close the gap on an enemy in difficult terrain, and taking a hit to your main stat just to grab those racial traits simply aren't worth it in my opinion. Though a Kasatha that has rebelled against their traditions to embrace technological advancements might make for a very interesting character. And finally, we have the Operative, which is another middle-of-the-road choice. Being able to scout more easily in, say, a dense jungle could absolutely come in handy, but depending on your game master, you might not find as much use of Desert Stride as, say, a soldier would in an active combat situation. And the same is true for the strength and wisdom bonuses. They just don't synergize very well. So what do you guys think about the Kasatha? Is this a race that you guys are looking forward to playing? And do you think the Kasatha has more versatility than what I do? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Also guys, be sure to check out the video's description for a full guide to all of the coverage here for Starfinder Week on the channel. I'm going to be releasing 28 videos over the next 3 weeks. So if you're looking for a place to keep up with everything Starfinder, I've got you covered. If this is your first time here and you love role-playing games as much as I do, I'd love to have you subscribe. Every week I'll be putting out new videos on GM tips, player tips, tutorials, and more. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, just hit that subscribe button down below and come join us. Once again, I want to give a special thank you to my sponsor, Miniature Market, for making these videos possible. And thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Cody, and may your games be filled with awesome memories and even better friends. I'll catch you guys next time.